All right, off to the airport.
So day 5 was our travel day, but it's not our travel day to go back home. It was our travel day to get from the island of Naxos to Athens, where we're going to spend the next 2 days doing some food tours and a tour of the Acropolis. The first thing we did was we took our flight. The airport on Naxos is a very small airport. We basically had to kind of like almost walk through this really small check-in area. They had an old school metal detector there, not even like the big fancy ones and anything like that. It was just, it's a single, a single gate airport essentially. And it was pretty neat. It was pretty fascinating to go through it. The flight we got was an Aegean Airlines flight, basically from Naxos to Athens. The flight itself went by fairly easy. I mean, it was a pretty smooth ride. Went on time, landed on time. Not that big of a deal. It was actually went fairly well. However, there were some complications that arose basically when we decided to go pick up our luggage. When we got there, we happened to notice my bag was still there. My bag was there, got it, no problem. However, we happened to notice that a lot of people were sitting there waiting for their bags. About half of them, I'd say. It wasn't until I noticed that there was this gentleman that must have had some sort of luggage tracker, because there is actually a luggage tracker, like I guess app or something like that. And he happened to notice that his bag was at the port still. So he went to the counter. We waited around for a while. I don't know exactly how long it was, just waiting for the luggage. And then we realized something is wrong here. We went to the counter. At this point, a lot of people had already left, and only the people that had bags missing were waiting there. This is when we all were starting to realize our luggage was essentially lost, or in this case, Andrea's luggage was lost. So we had to file a claim. They offered to ship it to the hotel, but we were only going to be in Athens for 1 or 2 days. So if the luggage didn't arrive that day or the day after, because we had a flight the following day, there's a chance the luggage might get to the hotel when we were already on our way back to Athens airport to fly out. So we were really, really worried about where this luggage was and when it was going to get to us. Before we went to the hotel, it just so happened that the airport had a pharmacy in there. Now, this was key because the pharmacy there was open. Unlike the other ones that we found in Cora, this one was open, so we were able to go there and get some help with the bug bites that I had. I forget exactly when we happened to notice this, but the bug bites on me started to get a lot worse. Not 100% sure what it was, but every single one of my bug bites was having some sort of weird issue with it. Even though I didn't touch them at all, the one on my legs, the woman, when we got to the pharmacy at the airport, said it was infected. The ones on my arm that were back here started to blister. This one started to blister as well. And then also the one on my foot started to look really bad as well. It actually started to turn kind of like this weird black and blue. I can only assume this was some sort of allergic reaction to all these bug bites. The woman at the pharmacy in the airport was super helpful. She basically said, here, take this, and she basically gave me some like steroids essentially and some antibiotics right off the bat. And this is where I guess the uniqueness of the healthcare differences between Greece and or maybe even just Europe in general and America. She just gave it to me. It was in a little box right there. She's like, here you go. This is what you need. Have at it. I didn't have to go to a doctor, get a prescription or anything like that. And it was actually really, really nice. Now, I'm not here to complain about healthcare or anything like that. That was actually a very pleasurable experience. We also happened to buy some of the things that Andrea needed for her daily life. Things that she needed to work with while she was there because she didn't have anything. They lost her luggage, and she didn't have 2 separate bags. It was all in one bag. Now, I will point out, though, even though they lost the luggage, and in the end, you can get reimbursed for a certain amount of value of things that you had to buy. So all we had to do was basically take pictures of the receipts of the stuff that we bought, say that we needed it because she lost her luggage. There was a little miscommunication with like the credit card and the way to get the payment. But once we sorted that out, they gave it to us. I think we got paid for all the stuff that we bought at that pharmacy for her, as well as some of the clothes, which we got to a little bit later. So I'll get into that a little bit later. So anyway, that being said, with the luggage stuff, the bug bite stuff, we kept on going because we didn't really have a choice. We took a taxi to the hotel. In this case, the hotel was the Electra Metropolis Hotel. We decided to choose this area because we have heard that some spots in Athens can be a bit sketchy when it comes to crime. Now, I mentioned it's the Metropolis Hotel because there are, I think, 2 or 3 different versions of the same name. So if you search for the Metropolis Hotel, that's the one we stayed at. From there, though, once we checked into the hotel, dropped my luggage off because Andrea didn't have any, we walked to again, another very, very old church. This was the Holy University Church of the Presentation of the Virgin Mary. It was a very old church. You can actually see how the town was kind of built up around it because it actually sits in a little recessed area. We went in. I don't think photography or videos were allowed in there, so I didn't really take any while we were in there. I took 1 or 2 from the outside. Maybe you can get a feel for it from that, but it was a very, again, a very...
This is beautiful.
From here, though, the day that we had planned was a food tour. So we had a food tour in the afternoon to give us time to travel and get there, and then build up our hunger and go on this food tour. The food tour, we met at a place called the Monasteriaki Square, which is basically like the monastery square. So there's a big church there, very busy, I guess, location for people to meet, and there were a couple of the tour groups in there as well. But this was a very popular area. Basically, the food tour was, without a doubt, one of the best food tours I've ever been on in my entire life. I mean, but every meal that we had, like little appetizer to the coffee to anything else, was just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the food was just amazing. I mean, all the food we ate up to that point was great, but even the food here just kind of like blew all of that out of the water. It was some of the best food I've ever had on a food tour, and some of the best food I've had on a vacation or any time that I can even think of.
So we miss only one person. Yes?
I think we will. Yeah, I agree.
Our first stop was a place called Spanakopita. No, that's the type of food that we had. It was actually like a little shop on the side of the road that they made spinach pies. I think also called Spanakopita.
Made with the fruit cream inside, semolina flour.
Spinach pies were really, really good. They had beef ones too. And the good thing about this food tour is all the extra food you got to take with you. But because we were tourists and we're traveling, we didn't really take any with us because what we're going to do with it? There's no microwave or anything like that. And we can't take it with us on a plane to take back to the U.S. anyway. From that, we walked through the fish and meat market, which is one of the big, I guess, draws to this particular area. It's called Varvakios Central Market. And in there, you can see all the different types of fish and meat that they have just all lined up. If you are a bit squeamish, maybe you don't want to watch this because there are some, there's I don't know, like lamb brains and pig's feet and all this type of stuff in this market. And I filmed walking through there. So if you're a bit squeamish about that type of stuff, maybe turn away for the next 30 seconds or so.
I reviewed the footage, but there isn't much as I thought. But still, if you're easily squeamish about raw meats and fish, jump ahead. Octopus and squid. Oh wow.
But that was a really cool experience just to walk through that, to be honest with you. Even if you don't eat meat or anything like that. Which Andrea doesn't, but she still appreciated the market being there. We walked through the market to get to a coffee shop, and this coffee shop was called Mocha Specialty Coffee.
Here they explain the unique way Turkish coffee is made. And of course we got to have some at the end. There was an option for hot chocolate though, if you didn't want a coffee.
Slowly. If you have the fire here, heat directly. So the coffee cooks faster. That changes the taste of the coffee. They have
I don't recall exactly how we made it now because I don't get a chance to make Turkish coffee and you have to have a special setup for something like that. But they explained that and it was really, really interesting to get in there and actually see see them make the Turkish coffee, which was quite good. After that, we went to another place called Tiz Teatro to Stay.
On the way there, we got to pass by another street market. The guide stopped by this other restaurant that was kind of like a Greek version of a speakeasy.
This place was basically kind of like a small place. Think like a tapas style, but like the Greek version of tapas style. I don't know if they call that the same. But there was so much food on that table, nobody could eat it all. And it was all delicious. I had some sardines while I was there, which I've never had before in my life. They were fantastic.
I tried the ouzo, which is a Greek anise flavored spirit. It was pretty good. Of course, I like licorice.
There, we actually played a little prank on the one gentleman. He walked away to the bathroom. He was an older guy. We felt a little bad maybe afterwards, but he walked away for a little bit. We were all having a good time. We just all decided to hide behind a car across the street. And then when he came out, the table was empty. He had no idea that he was looking around. And then we just like kind of all popped up behind the car. It was pretty funny. But from there, we walked to another place called Kipavos or Krinos, and we had basically what you could consider like a version of like a donut, but like a much lighter version of a donut. And we got to go back there, see the guy making it. Really good, kind of like a good for dessert type of place. Really enjoyed that as well. From there, our last stop on the food trip was the Costa Slovaki. And there we had gyros, or gyros, however you want to pronounce it. But the gyros were really good there, and they were made a different way. Normally, when I have a gyro, I think of it as something with a kind of like the tzatziki sauce. In this case, the gyros were actually made with a tomato-based sauce instead, and still like the gyro mix of meat and everything like that. They were also, again, very phenomenal. At this point, though, a lot of people were very full and they couldn't even finish theirs. I managed to finish mine just because I liked it so much, but oh well, that's me. And from there, at the end of the food tour, it's probably like around 3:30, 4 o'clock, I want to say, maybe it was a little bit later. But we just basically went back to the hotel to kind of relax and unwind, and also try to figure out the luggage situation to see what we could do, and to see if they even found the luggage. It wasn't until I think maybe even later that night where they found the luggage, and we told them at that point, make sure to just keep it at the airport. Do not send it to the hotel, because if it arrives and we're not there to take it, or if it arrives and we're flying out, it doesn't make sense. Especially since we had no idea how long it would actually take to get to us. But that was pretty much the end of day 5 of our trip to Greece. It was highs and lows. Greece was so far like it has some low points with like the lost luggage, the bug bites, the car and the narrow roads, but then also highs because of the food. I mean, the food was absolutely amazing. The architecture, the really old ancient Greek temples and things like that. It was just such a whirlwind of an experience. But we still have one more day left. That is day 6, and this is where we actually go to tour the Acropolis on day 6.
First up was breakfast at the Electro Hotel, with a wonderful preview of where we'll be heading pretty soon. On the way, Andrew and I discussed about our footwear. For good reason. It can be a bit slippery.
Man, these marble things are slippery with the flip-flops.
I know. That's how it's gonna be up there.
Yeah. Glad that's why I got my shoes, which are also kind of, tread's kind of gone too.
The only itinerary for today was to go on a walking tour of the Acropolis, but as you'll see, we ended up having a pretty full day of exploring. company we got tickets from was called Athens Walks, and they offer several different versions of the tour. We opted for the one that toured the Acropolis monuments, Parthenon, and Acropolis Museum as well. We also decided to get the earliest one possible to avoid the heat and hopefully the crowds. Once we met our tour guide, we put on our earpieces and followed the guide to the entrance to the grounds of the Acropolis. There was a security checkpoint, and while you can skip the line for tickets, you can't skip the line for a bag check. Luckily, it still went by pretty quick. From here, our tour guide took some time to explain the layout of the grounds, as well as explaining all the monuments leading up to the main entrance of the Acropolis. Now, I don't want to step on everything that was provided on the tour, as that's what they technically get paid for, so I'll just show some clips of us navigating into the entrance of the Acropolis, and some of the key sites that we hit up along the way. The path we took went by the Theater of Dionysus Eleutherius. From the theater, we worked our way westward to the Odeon of Herodes Atticus. Built in 161 AD, it still holds concerts and events to this day. There are also some spots for you to rest in the shade. Even this early, it was still pretty hot. The crowd started to bottleneck around the main entrance into the Acropolis, between the Temple of Athena Nike and the Monument of Agrippa, and then further through the Propylaea. It was slow going, and because of the foot traffic, the rocks underneath your feet were quite smooth and slippery, so be wary of your footwear. If you didn't notice it earlier, I did bring a pair of extra shoes with me. Eventually, we made it to the Parthenon, the crown jewel of the Acropolis. Looking back to the Propylaea, I could see the line of people leaving the Acropolis, but our tour wasn't done just yet. Here we got more information on the purpose of the temples, and plenty of time to walk around and explore the site. Here though, the tour split, and those of us that purchased the museum tickets went back down via a slightly different route than what we came in. Because that's possible. Gate to the city. On the way down, we got a great view of the Areopagus Hill. It wasn't a far walk to get to the Acropolis Museum. As you walk to the museum, you can see the excavated old ruins of the city beneath you. There was a lot to explore in the museum, and I would highly recommend visiting this as well as the Acropolis. It's kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime experience. And while I don't think you need a tour guide to visit the museum, I do believe having one is very beneficial, especially that it can tie it into the visit you just took at the Acropolis site. Inside there was a nice air-conditioned view of the Acropolis. Our tour ended inside the museum, so we decided to make our way back to the hotel area to find a cafe.
A must-see.
I'd say so.
If I were to come back, well, whatever cafe has been redesign.
It's
Let's
basically.
go back towards the hotel area. It seems like Eastern Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, I would too.
Poland or Hungary.
Poland would be pretty cool.
Well, Hungary we should go to because it's here.
Yeah, we definitely should go there. After the museum, we walked to a local cafe called Little Tree Books and Coffee. And of course, grab some coffee.
Different latte.
I also picked up some Greek yogurt before we braved the heat again and walked to see Socrates' prison in the nearby park. And while this isn't likely where Socrates was imprisoned, it's still known for that and draws visitors to the area. Yeah, we are not staying up here long. It was oddly so much hotter here than in the city. It's way cooler down in the city. Poor Socrates. Peeking inside, I grabbed some pics. All I know is, I wouldn't want to be imprisoned here. At this point, the Athens heat was really getting to us, so instead of exploring further into the park, we elected to head back to town and grab some gelato along the way at a place called Gelato Alta Qualita. From here, we walked to another park on the east side of the Acropolis. Yeah. Inside the park, there's plenty to see. Roman ruins, turtles, and a boatload of parrots. There are also lots of little ponds and cute bridges, and the zoo is located here too. which I think we got a sneak preview of with the goats. It was a great way to end the day before we headed out to get some food and eventually wind our way back to the hotel. But this being Greece, and historic, you couldn't miss the old churches. We saw this one with the building built around it, giving a glimpse of ancient history infused in modern Greece. We ended up eating here, which had some great food, and I grabbed a beer. There's like nobody here right now. On the way back, we passed by a clothing store with a great name, by the way, and since Andrea was sick of wearing and washing the same clothes, we picked up a few things before heading back to the hotel for our last night in Greece. The Funky Buddha. Oh, is this the entrance? It says stop. Nope. Let's go in the front way. There's a step there. I did not see it. I guess all the guy stuff is upstairs. Hello.
Hi.
I picked up a pair of shorts and a t-shirt as well before we went back to the hotel for a good night's sleep. We got up early for our taxi ride to the airport.
Okay, so as I see here, you have an open balance from the restaurant.
Okay, everything okay?
Yeah, we're good, thank you. Thank you for picking us up so early. Cafes are open. Yeah. The hotel was gracious enough to provide us with a little doggy bag of breakfast food. We walked by the pharmacy we visited on our way in, reminding us of just a few days earlier. The girl's there that helped us out. She was really nice. I got whatever this coffee creation was, and of course some Greek yogurt before we boarded our flight back to Boston. Oh. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as I shared with you our time in Greece.
All the peeps waiting.
Stay tuned for more videos of our adventures, and of course, more hiking content for you guys that like that on the way.
Caution, tunnel gate.